Hello, today I'm going to show you part 2 of how I've removed and installed the CV axle on the 2006 Saturn Vue. I'm going to show you the tools that I used. I'm going to show you the problems that I ran into, and then I'll show you the tips and tricks that I used to overcome these problems. I'll also show you the weather conditions that I was working in. For those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. I started this DIY channel for family and friends and for anyone who might find it useful or entertaining. In the videos on this channel, I show you how I take care of the situation at hand. Your comments, subscriptions, likes, and even dislikes help the channel. Let me know what you're thinking. And I just want to point out, this is the brand CV axle that fit. I had to go to an independent local store to purchase this. The national chain store didn't have it in stock. I had to buy it online from them. They sent me 4 CV axles. 4! And all 4 were incorrect. So this is the brand. And if you do buy online and go through Amazon, I have my storefront link down below. If you use that link, it's no additional cost to you, and it's a big help. If you have never done this job before and you want to see what's involved, I feel it'll be beneficial to watch this video to the end. If you come across a section that's not of interest, just fast forward it or skip right along to the parts that are of interest to you. So with that said, let's get to it. All right, after a week of frigid weather, I'm out here again. This is what I'll be working in. And there isn't any snow or ice here because I had the tire here. And according to Alexa, it's 43 degrees. This is the warmest it's going to be for the next week. And I wanted to get out here earlier this morning, but I just didn't make it out. It's about 2 o'clock right now, and this is what we're looking at. In the first video, I tried pulling this out with that cable connected to a slide bar. Didn't budge. Tried it with the rope on this. It didn't budge. I went online, and I wanted there's a shout out for Scotty Kilmer, if this works. He used to take the lower part of the axle off, leave the hub in there, and just put the new axle in, and I guess reseal the boot. But then he started using a vice grip connected to the slide bar. So what I'm going to proceed to do now is to remove that boot, separate this axle, and see if I could pull it out with the slide bar and the vice grip. If not, I really don't want to do it this way, but if I can't do anything else, I'm going to disassemble the new axle and slide it into that hub, put it all back together, and call it a day. So again, I don't have anybody videoing this for me. This is just held up together. You can see here I have a screwdriver in here just to keep everything from flopping into the mud. I had it covered with the plastic bag, cardboard, and those tires. So I'm going to take it all apart again. I'm going to jack this car up a little higher, get under there, get my cardboard on the ground, and start having fun. I removed the bolt that's normally in the back of the vice grip. That lets you adjust the tightness of it. This piece here comes with this set. I'm going to lock the vice grip onto that hub, screw it into this end, and see if that pulls it out. Here I go. I wanted to show the removal of this Tulip out of the transmission, and when I was uploading this video, I noticed this clip was missing. So I came back out, put this all back together again, and this is how I got it out. This is the part that was stuck in the transmission that I couldn't get out. I got this vice grip, just an ordinary vice grip. I unscrewed the screw that tightens it in the back. I put this screw in. This screw was part of the slide hammer kit. I clamped the vice grips onto the Tulip. Then I screwed the slide bar into the end of it. It was easier for me to get the vice grip in first, then this. It was too awkward with the weight on it going the other way. I gave it 2 pulls. It came right out. I couldn't believe how easy this came out. And I wanted to show, I had the camera set up to video it because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. And I don't know what happened to that clip. But I just want to point this out. This works very well. It's very simple. You get the slide hammer kit. This piece is part of it. Pair of vice grips. You disconnect the axle and it pulls right out. This has got to be the easiest way to get it out. I tried other methods and I just couldn't get this to budge out. Oh, back to the video. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I came out this morning. I broke up as much ice as I could. It's roughly 39, 40 degrees right now. This is starting to melt. So I'm just going to chip this up a little bit. Just showing you the conditions that I'm working in over here. And today, hopefully this will be the last time I'm taking this apart and put it together. We're going to have axle replacement number 5 going in. So I'm going to get my tools all together, get everything laid out, and as I put this in, I'll show you what I'm doing, or what I've done. When I get started, these 2 bolts are in, the nuts aren't on. I'm going to take those out, drop this forward. When this comes forward, I'll be putting the axle in, and you can see that the transmission did leak a little bit over there. So I'm going to have to check the transmission fluid when I have this all together. And going to make sure that this is still sitting on the jack stand, and these jacks are just extra support. I'm working outside, the ground froze a few times. I'm worried about things settling, slipping. And so once I check this all out, I'll start the procedure of putting it back together. All right, I started on this now. Move this knuckle forward. Without loosening this, I cannot get a straight shot of the shaft going into the transmission. If you could do it without taking this apart, that'd be great, but I couldn't find a way to do it without taking this apart. Now, when we come to the axle itself, on this end over here that goes into the transmission, see this clip? This is what holds it in. And this actually came with directions, and it warns you to put some grease on here to hold this clip centered, not to force it, because if you force it and break this clip, this axle will slide in and out and avoids the warranty. On the other end that goes to the wheel, I'm going to use anti-seize on these splines. In the first video, you saw how easy this axle moved in this hub. That was because a few months back, the link is up above, I had to replace this wheel bearing, and it was rusted in. When I put the new bearing in, I made sure I cleaned up the axle and put the anti-seize on it, and this time it came right out. I'm going to get that axle, prepare it. I'm going to slide it in. I'm not going to video this as I'm going along, because this is what I'm working on. I don't have anybody to hold the camera, and even if I set it someplace, more than likely it's going to get knocked over with me moving around, wiggling and jiggling in here. Once I get the axle in the transmission and I get it into the hub, the next step is to get this back together. The 2 bolts go in here. I put anti-seize on here the first 2 times that I put the axle in, took it out, put it in, thinking that I have installed it incorrectly. Meanwhile, the axle was short. So this was cleaned out somewhat. There was a little bit of rust there. The anti-seize is on it. And once I have this buttoned up, I'll be back to show you what's next. Okay, I'm having a lot of trouble trying to get this new CV axle in. The shaft size that goes into the transmission is the same length, so that's not the issue. You can see where part of it was going in. You can see this is scratched. This is the new one. The only difference I see is, look at this retaining clip, a circ clip, whatever they want to call it. Look at on the new one. See how high it sticks up? And it sticks out, even if you center it, it sticks out that little bit. The old one, look at this, when you push up on it, I don't know if it's that little bit of a difference that's killing me over here. See this now, I'm pushing this up as far up as it can go. And this one, when I push it up, Look at that. Doesn't look like much, but when you're working with this kind of a tolerance, that might be enough. So I could do a couple of things. I could heat this up and try to squeeze it together, or I could try to take this one off and insert it on this one here. What I don't like is the way this is scratched over here. This might be from when I tighten the axle nut that it's spun a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is to see if I can get this off without breaking it. This is the old one. If I can get this off, then I'm going to take this one off and replace it with the old one. Once I do that, I'm going to put grease on here again so it centers it. We'll leave it like this. We'll go this way with it so it centers, and hopefully it'll drop in. It's hard for me to tell on this. I don't know if the cameras are getting a better view than my vision here. Let's see, this is all the way up. Put my finger down. That's all the way up. Now this is all the way up. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm going to try switching it and see if that makes a difference. All right, here are the two retaining clips. This is the new clip, and you can see it's round. When I mean round, I mean it's round, not this way, but it has a diameter. This is the old clip. Now this one came off with no trouble at all. The new one, the one on the old CV axle, it has a flat spot to it. Did the camera pick that up? Let's see. See how it's flat? This one's round. I would think the round one would go in easier. It would roll and go in. And I noticed the old one, the opening is closer together than the new one. Get this side by side here. Look at the difference on the opening. New, old. This was in, this won't go in. So I'm going to try to put this, squeeze this together a little bit more. I don't know if it will because it's like a spring tension on it. If I heated it, it would probably work. But I'm going to put this on the new axle and see if we have any better results going this direction. Because the temperature's starting to drop out here and I have to move this along, I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to show you the tools I need to assemble this. I'm going to try to show you me getting the CV axle in there. I don't have anyone to hold the camera, so I'll put it in the best position possible. And for the critics out there that always complain that the camera's a little too jittery, a little too jumpy, cut me a little slack on this one, will you? Look what I'm working in. I slipped a few times already. If you recall the other day, this was all ice. It took 2 days of warmer weather and me chopping the ice away that this started to melt. Still have ice on this end over here. So this is what I'm working in. So if this video looks a little too jumpy for you, all I can say is thank you for watching, and I hope the information I provide helps you to remove and install your CV axle. That said, let's get back to the video. Right over here you have the 2 camber bolts that have to go in, and these require a 15mm wrench or a crescent wrench. You can see they're squared off on the end. Now I'm not sure about the camber and how to adjust it on this. I'm not getting into that in this video. Once I have it together, I see how the car rides, and I'll take it from there. The nuts that go on these bolts are a little bit larger, and they require a 21mm socket. That's for these 2 bolts. That's for these 2 nuts that go with these 2 bolts. Next, you'll have this nut that goes on the bottom of the tie rod end over here, and that requires, let's see, what do we have here, an 18mm socket, or I have a 11/16 wrench works on it. Now on the bottom of this tie rod end, it doesn't have a cotter pin. That's what I'm used to seeing. it has this bolt type end, and that requires an 8mm wrench or an 8mm socket. And what you're going to do, you're going to hold it down here as you tighten it up. Otherwise it'll spin and you can't tighten it. What do we have next? We have the two bolts, these two bolts here, that hold the brake pad that go into the brake, and they require an 11-15mm socket. And the reason I showed all this is because I'm going to show you the axle going in, but I'm going to put this together without videoing it. If I had someone here to hold the camera for me, I would video it, but I don't. Oh, and this one over here, I believe that's a 15mm also. This is 15mm. No. What was this one here? Yeah. Okay, this one here requires an 18mm socket. And there's one more up here. This holds the bracket for the ABS harness. And that requires, where did I go with that one? I believe it was 13mm. Yes. This requires a 13mm wrench or socket. I just put some of these bolts back in, not to lose them. If you've been following this video all along, you've seen how many times I've installed, removed, installed this axle. Oh, another thing, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. When you go to put the axle back in, clean that out. Use a rag, maybe a little brake fluid, make sure there's no metal shavings in there or anything. And you can see this brake over here. I have anti-seize all over it. I'm going to have to clean this up with some brake cleaner. You don't want to forget to put your ABS back together. The wire's hanging back there. So I'm going to prepare that axle, hopefully get it in, and we'll take it from there. This angle. Okay. It's not in there yet. Okay, it went in that quick. Here we go. You can see, well, you might be able to see, there isn't any tolerance between this Tulip and the transmission. That's how it should be. And I don't know if you heard that click. All I did was give it a little tap. I used this part of the axle as a slide hammer. A little tap and it went right in. So the problem all along with this new axle was that clip, that retaining clip. I put the clip from the old axle on and it went right in, first shot. Now I'm just going to put this together. Don't forget your anti-seize on the spline over here, and I showed how everything else has to go. I have to get this done because this is the weather I'm looking at right now. I thought it was going to be a clear day all day today, but it doesn't look like the weather's working with me. So once I get this together, I'll be back. All right, I have it all together. Everything's tightened up. The brake pads are back on. The ABS bracket is back in. The ABS connector's back on. You know, I'm not sure if this wire is supposed to go over the knuckle or under. When I put it over, it seems like it's a little tight. When I put it under, it seems to fit better. So I'm going to have to check this out. Now, the torque on this axle nut, this is a 2006 Saturn Vue. And the front wheel, it's 157 foot-pounds. And I got this information, I just found this out earlier this morning. It's at www.timkeninfo.com. I'm going to do a video on that to show you how to look it up. It's a great site to find the specifications on the vehicle you're working on. So this is tightened. I have to put the wheel back on. I have to clean up under here. And another thing, I had this much transmission fluid leak out. And the reason I had so much of it leak out, because the previous axles went in and out, I believe 3 or 4 times, and it dripped. So you shouldn't get this much leaking out. If it goes in as easy as this one just went in, you shouldn't have this much. But check your transmission fluid before you drive off to make sure it's okay. This looks a little dark, and there's different theories on a high mileage car, whether you should change the transmission fluid or not. I don't know. Not getting into that on this video. And as I mentioned before, I'm not sure the camber on this. So I'm going to drive it, see how it reacts, and more than likely I'm going to need a wheel alignment. But if not, all is well. It took me forever to get this done. I hope the corrections that I made and the tips I gave help you out. And if it did, and you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a like. A lot went into this. Share it with someone else who might find it useful. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Hit that Joe Z button right up above to subscribe to my channel, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of my new videos as I upload them. Until next time, stay safe.